Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Today we are going to be back doing some animation today in our second lesson on animation, and today we're going to be using expressions. Now I'm going to show you a couple expressions that are very useful inside of Houdini. So I'm going to put down a test rubber toy here, and let's start with the most simple and probably the most used expression, which is $F. $F stands for frame. So what you're going to want to do is enter that, and then if you click up, it will start playing it. But currently what it's doing is it's playing at the maximum speed it possibly can, and that's why you have this little needle thing going very, very fast. And the way you fix this is down here with a real-time toggle, and this will make this the proper speed. Granted, this won't always work if your scene is heavily populated. This won't magically make your scene be real time, but if your scene goes too fast, then it'll work. And just to expand on that slightly, you can click D if you're over the scene view over here. Go to guides and then show time, and you'll see what FPS it's running at, and currently it's running at real time, which is 24 FPS. And the way you change the FPS is down here at global animation options. So you've got FPS here, I'll stick it to 25, and you've got your frame range as well, which you can also alter by typing in here. So I can type 30 in there. We can move this about as well. So you've got your maximum range of 30, but then you can go within that. Let's stick it back to 250 and play. So if you click over here, this is currently the expression view. If you've got a box highlighted, like we've got rotate highlighted, it's going to show whatever expressions in this box. I talked about this briefly last video, where I showed about keyframing and how you can see Bezier or linear. When you click this, it will show the result of your expression. So we're at frame 25 and we've got 25 up here. Another one is $T, which is time. So what this is going to do is it's going to take the number of seconds. It's going to be seconds instead of frames. So you might be like, oh, I'm at 25, so why isn't it 1? And that's because we start on frame 1 in Houdini. So you go to 26 and it will equal 1. And this is a lot slower, as you can see. And the way you can speed these expressions up is super simple. You can literally do maths in here. So you can do 25, and now it's sped up. You can take these values and divide them, and now it's back to the normal time. So now let's move on to looping. So this can be useful if you've got expressions and stuff like this, because you can use this inside of Vex, which I've done a few times to basically loop or remap a range that's going to be consistent. So for like rotation, if you've got rotation, you can set it to, at 360 go back to 1 or go back to 0, and then continue over and over. So I could do $F, and then you do the percentage sign. I don't have any symbols on my keyboard. There it is. So sad. If we set this to 5, so percentage 5, this is going to go up to 5 and then back to 1. Or back to 0, sorry. So now he's head banging. Looking good. So that's a really useful little expression there as well. And finally, the last two I'm going to chat about is sin and cos. You can also use tan, but it's a bit useless if you've ever looked at a tan wave. So if I do cos and remap this to $F, it's going to give me the cos value of whatever frame I'm on. So I could type in here like 250, and it'll give me the cos value of 250, you know. Lame math stuff. But then if I play this back, it's now going to ping pong between 2 points, like so. I can times this by something bigger, and it's going to be sliding on its belly across our grid. And we can also put sin in here, and then we could also put tan. This is actually a pretty cool thing, like if you're doing like a loop or something where you needed something to slide in and then slow down, the tan wave actually works quite well for that. Because if I zoom out, you're going to see it goes for ages. Watch this. Whoop. It's mad. So those are the main expressions that I will be using, or I'd want to have known. And I was talking about doing a camera move earlier with a speed controller. So I'll do that now. So I'm going to set up, I just deleted my test geometry, by the way. I'm going to put down actually I'll put back down test geometry. You can come back. And then I'm going to set down a camera. So if I click H, it's going to center onto our object. And I'm going to control click on the camera up here, which is going to set a camera in the current position we're in. And just, I'm probably going to go more in depth on the camera, but when you've got this anchor tool or this handle thing open or selected, which I talked about in the first tutorial, it's basically like a bespoke setting for whatever object you're on. So we're on the camera, so we've got settings for zooming out, we've got settings for rotating around or banking the camera. And to reset this stuff, what you do is you control middle click, and we could do this on everything for this row. So I can control middle click and it'll reset. Just thought I'd mention that. So I've zoomed out a bit, and what I want to do is I want to make this rotate around a point. So we can put down a null, and just like you would in any other program, Jesus Christ, that's loud. MotoGP happening outside my house. So what we do is we plug this into our camera, and as you can see, it popped up there. It said parent. Let me get rid of that. That was Y, by the way. Y and then, you know, slash. Draw a little smiley face. Not very easily. Maybe look more like a top hat. So that's parenting. So now that that object's parented, anything we do with this with this object, anything we do with this object, this null object, will affect our camera. And just to talk a bit more briefly about null or parenting, sorry, if I parent this, when the position is changed, it's going to automatically move this camera. What if I didn't want that? And there's this great option called keep position while parenting. So that's going to fix that issue that I was having where it would move. You know, maybe you want that in certain circumstances, but now it's still going to work, but it's going to be, the camera's position is going to be the same as it was originally. So let's undo all that, move it back to the center. We could even use our fancy new acquired skills of control middle clicking. So let's set this up. So I'm going to put $F into rotation, which one, on Y. So now it's going to rotate. Cool. So what I want is I want to have something that's going to shift the frame number. So add, so if I add to 25, that's going to put us to frame 26. So I need something, I need a value in here that I can reference. So the way that you can do this is go up here to the cogwheel and click on Edit Parameter Interface, which is a really amazing part of Houdini, where you can actually edit these values, edit defaults, and save. You can save presets, which I might talk about later in another video. But basically, as you can see over here, these are our existing parameters, and then these are our creation parameters that we can add. So what I need is a float value that I can then reference. So I just drag this in here. I'm going to put it above everything, so it's going to appear up here above all these tabs. And I'm going to call it rotation, or rotate Y. Maybe we call it RY. I think RY is already used actually, rotate Y. It doesn't matter what it's called because, you know, it's literally just for us to look at this expression in here and understand what's going on. Actually, no, we need it to call it offset, right? Offset. And then I need another float, which is going to be our speed multiplier. Make sure when you're typing in the stuff, I think by default it does it anyway, but you can't have spaces. When you do a space, it's going to put in an underscore. So keep that in mind. But in your labels, you can have whatever you want, essentially. You can have spaces because it's just a visual representation for you. So when I click apply, we're going to get these two new parameters, and then I click accept, or you can even close it, doesn't matter because it's already applied. But now we've got a range from 0 to 10. You can change this as well if you click on your parameter back in that parameter interface. So I could change this to whatever I want. I'm not going to touch it at the moment. Actually, the offset shouldn't be a float. Now that I think about it, it should be an integer because our frame number is 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. It's not going to be ever a decimal point in that value. So we just call this offset, and then we click accept. And now we've got these little steps. We can't put an integer in here, a float in here. We can only put an integer. And if we hover over this, we can see what the parameter is called. Speed underscore multiplier. We don't have to type anything though. What we can do is we can right click and do copy parameter, and then in here we do plus, right click and paste relative references. And this is going to give us our offset parameter. And then I can enclose this in further brackets because then we need to multiply this. So now if I move this up, we've got our offset. And then at the end, I want to times this by that. So I'm going to do right click, copy parameter, and then let's just add some spaces to make it more understandable. So now we've got $F plus offset, and then that value times it by our speed multiplier up here. And by default, nothing's going to happen because we've got our multiplier set to 0, and if you times anything by 0, it equals 0. Quick maths with you. So there we go, we can change the speed, we can offset it slightly, or a lot. And this kind of gives you a bit of a fine, some fine control over your parameters. That's how I would use expressions in animation. Any questions, because this is a bit more in depth, just put them in the comments and I'll try and help you guys out. See you in the next one.